Hi everyone, this is Dr. Theresa Nicassio from theresanicassio.com, and I'm talking today about a very difficult topic. This is probably one of the hardest topics I've spoken about, and for say a wellness tip, we can call it wellness tip or relationship tips or whatever we want to call it. But the question I'd like to address is one that many people ask me, and I'm asked oftentimes, when, I don't know if I should stay in this relationship or not. I don't know if it's serving me. I'm feeling dead. I'm not feeling excited. I don't like this person very much. I feel more alone with this person than I do without this person, or I'm attracted to other people now. The many reasons, goes on and on and on. And this is a really big question because it's many more layers than people realize, because it's not just about. All right, so we're having some technical problems. It went down for a little bit, but it seems to be up again. And so today what I'm talking about is when is it time to walk away? When is it time to say adios? I need to move on with my life and so forth. So the first very simple principle that I'll share with you as a psychologist that I like to ask people is to ask yourself, what if there's any part of you, even if it's 5% of you or 1% of you, that thinks there might be something worth salvaging in this relationship. And this is a really important question, because even if it's a 0.5% or 0.1%, then it's definitely worth giving more reflection about. Now, I want to put all this in context, however. If there is any physical danger, any physical harm, any forms of aggression whatsoever, everything I'm going to say is, kind of ignore that, because I'm talking about in situations where there's not aggression. Now, emotional aggression is a problem, and sometimes when we're having a hard time, we can sometimes get angry, or a partner can get angry or get more childlike. So there's a fine line here, and again, as in any other situation, it's always best to seek a healthcare professional to support you if you're having this question. But I'm just wanting to give you a few little tips to help you with this. But one of the really important things I want to say is, if there's even just that, a half of 1% or a half of 1%, until you can have total peace of mind to know that it's zero, then you know that it's not the moment to just say it's over. But it's definitely a time to say, hey, we are in friggin' crisis. This is like bad news, folks. And something's got to shift. So what I'd like for you to do, the second thing, is, after asking yourself the question, number one, is there any part of me that feels like I might regret it? There might be something that, some reason that it might be worth staying. But the second question, I guess the second question is there any danger with staying in this relationship? Because if there is, then you've got to do whatever you need to do to stay safe. So that's really important. And I just lost now what I was going to say for the third piece, because there's so many elements. Oh, I know. So then the third question to ask yourself is, what might be going on? Just be curious. How can you be curious about what's going on? Because if things are not going well, it means that something needs to change. So the simple question is, what needs to change? What needs to change? So it's a really interesting question, because when I'm working with couples and I ask this, usually the answer is, my partner needs to change. In fact, it's not really, it's funny, it's not funny, but usually when people come to couples counseling, just for the record, is usually they come to couples counseling so that their partner can get fixed and can change their behavior. And both people are coming in with that clarity. And so what I want you to do when you're wondering about what needs to change, I want you to be curious on both fronts, not just what is it you would love to have and would need to have your partner to do differently, or to make it feel more sustainable. But also ask yourself, what might be some things that I might be able to do differently? How might I be able to contribute to the change? Because we oftentimes choose to be generous when we feel the other person's generous. And then when the other person's not being generous, it's like, well, when you do this for me, then I will do that for you, because I know you want that. And when both people are doing that, then basically everybody loses, because no one's giving anything. So what I like to do is encourage you on that, for the fourth level, related to the third, is to then ask yourself, what will it take for you to do at least one thing different? One thing that's more generous, even before you see anything change in your partner. So is there anything you can do to change? And what you'll find is that the more generous you are, actually the more generous your partner will likely become. So instead of the snowball effect being, I'm not going to give you this, or I'm not going to do this or that for you because you are not very nice to me, or you don't do this for me, or that, is to turn it around and to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to act as if we are just dating. We're just newly dating, and during that time when we want to be so generous to the person. And when you start to do that, you're going to be amazed by how many changes your partner will start to do. And because the other thing is, a lot of times people say, I'm just not attracted to my partner anymore. I'm just not. Well, I'll tell you what, if your partner's not nice to you, and if there's not things going on, it's pretty darn adaptive to stop feeling attracted to that person. And what you're going to find is, when you start to be nicer to each other, and you start feeling that you matter, that you're seen, you're heard, and all of that, then amazingly, it's quite magical, you start to find that person more attractive. At least there's moments where you're like, oh, they're kind of cute, or I don't mind them touching me, or whatever it is. So that's really it's a cart before the horse kind of question. So when people say, I'm just not attracted to them, there's just no like sexual attraction or anything anymore, that is oftentimes a symptom as opposed to a cause in terms of breaking up. So it's a sign that something needs to change. So I wanted to share with you that tip. And then I'd like to shift gears and talk a little bit about around life, and because I on my show this week I have someone, Dr. Barb Dupree is going to be on the show, and she's going to be talking about lifelong intimacy, so it kind of ties in with this theme today. And she's a menopause specialist. She's a gynecologist, a physician gynecologist, and she's an award-winning author and award-winning gynecologist, menopause specialist. And she's going to be talking about those changes, because that's the other thing that can happen. And it's another reason why sometimes the romance can kind of go a little sour. As we get older as women and go through menopause, basically all of our hormones go down except for one. All of our hormones go down except for one, and the one that doesn't go down goes up, and that's cortisol. So that's not exactly a big boost in the romance department. And then there's all kinds of other physical changes that can happen and do happen for us as we change, but it doesn't mean that romance and intimacy has to end. And so she's going to be talking about lifelong intimacy and some of the changes and some of the relationship issues, like we're talking about here, that can also put a real damper on intimacy and that sort of thing. So be sure to join me this week. Join us this week for that. It first airs on Monday. Today's Friday, yeah. So it first airs on Monday. Today's the 21st. I think it's the 24th of July. At noon Pacific time. But then once it's on, within usually hours, if not a day or two, if not within hours, then the recorded podcast is available 24/7, and you just access it all from my website, theresanicassio.com. You go to radio shows, and you can also already see a page about Dr. Barb Dupree and learn a little bit about her. She's awesome possum. I'm so excited to have her on the show and talking about foundational intimacy and so forth, and what we can do as we get older. You know, those of us who are, you know, in our 50s and moving on and beyond, it'll be a really important show for us, but not just for women, but for men as well, because there's some universal questions as well that are related to relationships, and regardless of your sexual orientation or any of this, it'll be good stuff. The other thing I'll mention is, if you haven't listened already to Dr. Jill Carnahan's show, it's on this week, and actually today's Friday, and I'm looking at the clock here. Yeah, so it'll be on again at 4 p.m. Pacific. It'll be streaming again, and then of course it's also available 24/7, as well as a podcast, and all of it you can access the link and hyperlinks directly to the show at theresanicassio.com. So that's my update today. Sorry it's been a while, folks, and many of you have written me notes, and I just have to say I've been behind the 8 ball a bit, and been trying to do more self-care and taking care of me and my health and my family, and getting a lot more in the garden and nature again, and my art. I love to do art, so I've been doing those things, if you've been wondering where I've been. But anyway, I hope these tips help with regard to relationships. And again, ask yourself some of those questions about, is there any part of any part of you that thinks it may be staying in a relationship? If you're wondering if there's any part of you that feels like it might be worth salvaging, asking yourself questions like, what can I do differently? What is it that I can do to change, and what are the things that I would like that would help it be more sustainable and a healthier relationship for me, and so forth. And there may be a point then, if it gets down to zero, you know it's time to walk. All right, so that's kind of the bottom line. If it's not zero, it's not time. But if it does get down to zero, then it's a good time to head on out the door, as hard as it will be, and hopefully there's not too many complications, but there's oftentimes are, and especially if there's children, property and children, and so forth. But to try to bring as much grace as you can to the process. Those are whole other conversations about how to leave if you are going to leave, but we'll save that for another time. So again, this has been Dr. Theresa Nicassio, and I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to next time. Okay, bye-bye.